It was exactly 3:07 a.m. when the silence of the night was shattered, not by a scream, not by a crash, but by the soft scrape of paws on a wooden floor. The Wilson family had been asleep for hours, their home locked tight, their neighborhood still. But inside the nursery something was happening. Their German Shepherd, Max, moved with eerie purpose. He wasn't barking, he wasn't panicking. He was dragging something someone. It was their baby girl Emma, wrapped in her blanket, still fast asleep. The toddler was gently being pulled across the floor by Max's teeth, cradling the fabric like he'd practiced this moment his entire life. Down the hallway, past the kitchen, toward the back door, and just before the sound of the door unlocking hit the parents' ears, Max turned and stared back at the house as if begging someone to follow. What happened next? Would unearth a secret buried beneath their home and change everything they believed about their family, their dog. Max had always been loyal, rescued from a shelter when he was barely 6 months old. He'd been the Wilsons' shadow ever since. Protective, quiet, sharp-eyed. When Emily and Daniel Wilson had brought their newborn daughter home, Max hadn't left her side for days. The crib became his command post. The baby monitored his soundtrack. When Emma cried, Max paced the hallway. Before anyone else heard, when she giggled, he would wag his tail like it was a symphony. Everyone said he was the perfect dog, but no one, not even Daniel, could explain what made Max behave that night. Why he opened the back door by himself? Why he didn't bark once? Why he seemed terrified? Emily sat bolt upright in bed when she heard the door creak open, a sound that shouldn't have been possible. Daniel followed, groggy, rubbing his eyes. "Did you leave the back door open?" she asked in a panic. No, I locked it before bed." "I remember, wait. Where's Max?" Oh. Both parents ran through the hallway, their feet echoing louder than they should have. The house felt wrong, like something was missing. The moment they reached the nursery and saw the empty crib, Emily's scream could have woken the dead. Emma, the blanket was gone. So was Max. And then came the strangest parts, something Daniel could never explain to the police later. As they burst through the backyard door, they didn't find a struggle. No blood, no torn clothing, no paw prints in chaos. They found Max, standing perfectly still in the grass, with baby Emma lying at his feet, untouched, her eyes barely fluttering in her sleep. But Max wasn't looking at them. His ears were pinned back, his tail stiff. He was staring at the house. Then he growled low, deep, guttural at something inside. Daniel instinctively turned back toward the door, but all he saw was darkness until the light flickered once, twice, then once, then. After minutes of confusion and desperate checks, she was fine. Her heartbeat normal, no injuries, no signs of anything wrong. But Max refused to step back into the house. He stood outside for nearly 30 minutes, growling at the living room window. The same window facing the nursery wall. Something was wrong. And over the next few days, Max made sure they wouldn't forget it. He slept in the hallway instead of his bed. He barked at the floorboards. Beneath Emma's crib, he refused food unless it was outside. And on the fourth night, at 3:03 a.m., the baby monitor went static. Then they heard it. A faint sound scratching, but not from the monitor's speaker from under the crib. Emily grabbed Daniel's arm. "Did you hear that?" He nodded. But when he opened the nursery door, nothing. Just a sleeping baby and Max, growling, pawing at the floor. This time Daniel decided to check. He lifted the crib, exposing the floorboards underneath. Max went wild digging. At the wood like something was trapped beneath, Daniel fetched a flashlight and pried open a loose floorboard. That's when he saw it. Not a pipe, not rats, but a small cloth pouch, old, stained, wrapped in brittle leather and tied with a red string inside. Were baby teeth, dozens, some human, some not. Daniel dropped it immediately. Emily gasped. "What is that? I don't know." They called the police. That's when everything changed. The investigation revealed something chilling. Their house, built over 60 years ago, had been the site of an old daycare center in the early 1960s. It closed after rumors spread about abused children going missing. No one was ever charged. The records were sealed, and the man who ran the daycare, he disappeared without a trace. In 1965, but there was more. The police uncovered bones buried under the house, small ones, shattered ones, hidden between the beams. They were ancient, decayed, but real. The Wilsons were horrified. And the night after the discovery, the static came again, this time with a voice. "I never meant to hurt them," it whispered through. The monitor like wind against glass. Max lunged at the speaker, knocking it over, and Emma. "Oh." She smiled in her sleep. They thought the nightmare was over, that the discovery of bones and the sealed history of the old daycare explained everything. But Max knew better. He wouldn't go near the nursery anymore. Slept with one eye open, stationed in front of Emma's room like a soldier guarding a queen. He didn't bark unless it was between 3 and 4 a.m., always at the same wall, the wall behind the crib. Then, just 4 days after the police sealed off the crawl space beneath the house, Max started scratching again, this time not at the floor, out at the wall. The same wall he had stared at the night he dragged Emma out. Daniel got a hammer. Emily stood behind him, holding Emma, heart racing. The moment he broke through the drywall, gust of stale, freezing air hit them in the face. Inside wasn't insulation or studs. It was a hollow cavity roughly the size of a child's hiding space, and written on the inside, in red chalk, were 5 words. "He still comes for them." The police returned. The wall was torn down. Behind it, they found a rotting wooden box. Inside the box was a single photograph, faded black and white. A man with a thin mustache, holding 2 children on his lap, smiling, but behind his eyes, something felt wrong. Off. The officer on duty froze when he saw the back of the photograph. There was a name written in pencil. Dr. G. Whitmore, the protector, the same name from the old daycare records. But this time, there was something else, a date scribbled next to the name. June 12, 1963, the same day the last child reportedly went missing. Emily didn't sleep that night. Daniel sat in the living room with Max, the baby monitor silent. The house so quiet you could hear the pipes hum. Then, at exactly 3:07 a.m., the lights flickered. Max stood up. The monitor hissed, and then Emma screamed. They sprinted upstairs. The crib was shaking. Emma was upright, eyes wide but not crying, just staring at the ceiling. There were scratches above her long, finger-like marks carved in paint. Then a whisper, clearer this time. "She belongs with them now." Max snarled and leaped onto the bed, placing himself between the crib and the corner of the room. The air turned freezing. The light bulb shattered, and then everything stopped. Emma blinked and started giggling. The Wilsons moved out the next day. The police continued their investigation, eventually closing the house off as a historical hazard site, citing unstable foundations and old structural rot. But Daniel and Emily knew better. Something lived in that house, or had, and Max had known all along. 6 months passed. They relocated to a rural home in Oregon, quiet, peaceful, with no old buildings and no floorboards to hide anything beneath. But Max remained cautious. He wouldn't let Emma out of his sight. If she played in the yard, he'd follow. If she laughed at night, he'd sit by her door and listen. Then one night, the baby monitor, brand new, bought after the move started, hissing again, only this time, it wasn't static, it was music. A child's lullaby sung low and slow. "Hush now, don't you cry? Someone's watching from nearby." Emily raced into the room. Max was already there, tail high, head low, growling. The room was cold again. Emma was asleep, but on the window there were 5 fingerprints, from the outside and underneath, written in the fog. She still remembers. They went to a local priest, then to a historian, finally to a woman who specialized in psychic investigations. She wasn't shocked. In fact, she'd heard about Dr. G. Whitmore. He was never just a daycare manager. he'd been a part of something darker, a cult of individuals obsessed with preserving childhood innocence in the afterlife. They believed some souls needed to be protected from the sins of the world. By being taken early, only a few members were ever caught. Whitmore wasn't one of them. The psychic said something else, something that chilled them more than the cold nursery had. You didn't find all the bones, did you? Daniel shook his head. We thought we did. She nodded slowly. They always leave one behind, to return. Emily asked the question they both feared. What does he want with Emma? The woman looked at Max now, sitting beside the crib again. He wants her soul. Then she turned back to Emily and Daniel. But he can't have it. She's already claimed. What does that mean? Daniel asked. She smiled faintly. It means the dog saved her. He didn't just pull her out of danger. He marked her, protected her. He's her guardian now, and guardians don't sleep. They began a ritual, not just spiritual, but symbolic. Every night before Emma slept, Max would touch her forehead. With his nose, Emily called it a goodnight kiss. But Max did it without fail even, if Emma had fallen asleep early, and after that, the monitor stayed silent, no whispers. No music, no cold, until Emma's 5th birthday. It was a sunny morning, balloons, cupcakes, laughter, neighbors over, family in the backyard. Max was wagging his tail, running alongside the kids. Then Emma opened a gift she didn't remember asking for. A small box, wrapped in red ribbon inside, was a faded black and white photo. The man with the mustache. No. One knew who had brought it. Emma looked at it. Then she looked at Max. She didn't cry. She walked over, hugged his neck, and whispered into his ear, He's coming again. Max barked once, and that night. He didn't sleep at the door. He slept under her bed, watching, waiting. Max died 10 years later. Old age. Peacefully. Emma was 15. She held his paw in her lap, tears in her eyes, heart full of memories. But what she didn't know, what the parents had kept secret, was that for the past few months, the baby monitor had started hissing again. Only when Max wasn't in the room, and now it was crackling again. 3 nights after Max passed. Emma had a dream. A dark hallway. A door creaking open. Footsteps in water. And a voice faint. Hollow, you were never supposed to leave. ... She woke up screaming. Daniel and Emily did. One last thing. They buried Max's ashes under Emma's new bedroom window, planting a white rosebush above him, and placed a plaque that read, Here lies Max, guardian of innocence. From that night on, no more whispers. No more music. Only the scent of roses and the quiet sound of Paws. Just outside her